Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 2.5 years.
And before we get started, I apologize for my voice. I've had COVID for, it's been a few weeks now.
A month and a half.
A month and a half. And it's done a real number on my voice. But we didn't want to wait any longer to record the next episode. So inshallah, bear with us. This week, we're going to be talking about attraction.
Let's get started.
Okay. So this is a question that we get a lot in social media, that is sent to me through email. It's very, very common. For people who are young and not yet married, the ones who are single, they have a lot of questions about how important is attraction and how it goes on. Like how does that dynamic play out in a marriage? And people who are married have questions about what happens if I'm no longer attracted to my spouse. Right? So it's something that is very common in the community. Yeah. So what do you think about this topic?
Sometimes people just gotta be people, and they just live their life,
Yeah.
Whatever happens.
It's a lot of posters.
Yeah.
You know those posters that people keep, those motivational posters that people have in their office?
Yeah.
Just hang in there.
Shoot for the stars.
Absolutely. Whatever happens.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's start with the people who are single and not yet married. Their concerns tend to be around how important is attraction. Like the scenario will play out that they've met somebody that checks all their boxes, right? Like this person is, they are compatible with me in every other aspect, but I don't feel yet I don't feel attracted to them. And sometimes the wording will be like, I don't feel attracted to them at all. It grosses me out, the thought of being with them.
That's extreme.
Yeah, you would be surprised how often that's there. But even for the ones who say, you know what, I'm not attracted, how should I continue with this anyway and hope that attraction develops later on? Like, what should I do? How do you advise these youngins?
If they don't have any attraction, then they should walk away, regardless of how compatible they are. Because I think the foundation is if you find the person appealing.
Attractive.
Yeah, appealing, yeah.
Yeah, so what does that mean? Like, how important on a scale of 1 to 10 would you say is attraction?
On a scale of 1 to 10, if you find yourself saying, I don't find this potential partner physically attractive at all, you're at a 0. You're done.
So that marriage is not going to work.
It's not going to work. No, it's not going to work because first and foremost, personality, right? Everything, they're all variable.
Yeah.
Right. A job, financial status, everything is variable. So at the very least, you want to set the foundation. Do I like the person that I see?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Something to fall back on in case other things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I agree with you totally because we all know the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't know it word for word, but the hadith basically says, make sure you look at the person, make sure you look at her, make sure you see her. Or I think he said, have you seen her? When somebody was asking about marrying someone else. And I think that if attraction wasn't important, that we would be told that it's not necessary to meet the other person. You would just be matched on paper.
If attraction wasn't important, people wouldn't care if you're 6 foot or taller.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. So I think that attraction, yes, to some degree, there is space for it to evolve over time, right? You'll notice for a lot of these questions, for a lot of these topics, the answer is not black and white. It's somewhere in the middle, right? It's within the nuances. So it's not going to be simply, yeah, it's okay to marry someone you're not attracted to because attraction will develop over time. That's not a right answer. And no, you should never marry someone who you're not attracted to. That's also not a right answer. I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, where it depends, right? It depends on a number of factors. If whenever somebody asks me this question, I ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, just like I asked you.
Yeah.
How attracted would you say that you are, right? And if that answer is less than a 5, then I say it's probably not going to work, because because this is somebody you're going to have to, when you're married to them, you're going to have to be married to them.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be able to, if intimacy is not possible with this person, then that's going to affect your marriage. You're setting yourself up for a failure.
Yeah.
In the beginning. So you need to have at least a baseline threshold level of attraction that will allow you to be married to them, and also will help you to lower your gaze, right? Because if you're married to somebody you're not attracted to, and you're out and about in the world, online and in real life, and you're coming across people who you're very attracted to, it's going to be very hard for you to lower your gaze.
Yeah.
Right. So as a protection for your marriage and for your religion, there needs to be a baseline level of attraction. And at some point, it's not going to be possible for that to grow enough.
Yeah.
To cover that distance. If you're already less than 5, whatever attraction that develops in your marriage is still not going to be enough to cover that gap.
I think on a scale of 1 to 10, to answer your question from earlier, I'm probably going to put it at like an 8.5 or a 9, maybe even 9.5.
That you need to be at?
That you need to be attracted to the person.
Yeah, otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Honestly, that answer is going to be different for men versus women.
Yeah.
Like this, just based on my experience, from my clients, I've seen that that number has a little bit more leg room for women versus men. Again, this is one of those huge generalizations, right? But tend to be back before when I was coaching young men. Yeah, I would say don't do it if you're not already very attracted to this person.
Yeah,
don't do it, because what happens? Like, how does that play out if you marry somebody and you're not attracted to them? How's that going to play out?
It's not.
Yeah, how does that usually look like? What do you think?
They're not going to be able to get past the starting line.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to finish the race.
Do you think that they'll be able to cover it up?
Car's going to burn down.
Okay. Do you think that they'll be able to cover up so that their spouse doesn't notice?
No.
Yeah.
No, they won't.
I remember there was one story. I don't know if it's actually real or not. You never know with the internet. But there was somebody who recounted on a podcast about how she always thought that her husband was very attracted to her.
Yeah.
And he always told her that she was very beautiful, etc., etc., etc. And then one day...
Was this when he said on his deathbed or something?
No, this is different. One day he was at the house and he invited a number of his friends.
Yeah.
And she was in the other room.
Yeah.
Preparing some kind of snack, some kind of food for them. And she was able to overhear their conversation. And their friend and his friends were saying something about how she wasn't, like, I don't want to repeat verbatim because it was pretty vulgar, about how she was not attractive. And he was hearing them out. And at some point he said, you know what, guys, that's enough. Even though she's not a looker, right? Like he said, even though she's not a looker, she's still my wife and I care about her a lot. So he was saying to them, even though I'm not attracted to them, even I'm not attracted to her and I don't think she's pretty, I still care about her and it's fine.
Yeah. That comes from his insecurity because he valued himself too little to think that he, at the very least, was able to try to punch up, right?
Oh, he settled.
Yeah, that's what he thinks, is that he settled, right? But for him, it just seems like he didn't try to apply himself, and he just went for the first person who liked him.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. And that might be how the situation originated. But when she heard that, that was devastating.
Mhm.
At this point, they'd been married for years,
Yeah.
right? And she thought that she was everything. Like it's very important for men. I'm sure this is true for men,
Mm.
but it's very important to understand that the way that a woman looks to her spouse
Yeah.
is so intricately tied into her ego
Yeah.
that they might be one and the same. And any hit on her appearance from her spouse is a hit on her ego, and it's hard to recover from.
Sometimes it causes ego death.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Um, it's the I wouldn't even say it's the equivalent, but it's similar to how a man would feel if his wife disrespected him in public.
Mm.
Right. It was just talking negatively about his ability to be a man
Yeah.
in public. Like that's very damaging to the ego of that man. So it's to that extent, if not more so. Right. So when she hears this, she was absolutely devastated, and it was very hard for her to come back from.
Yeah.
And that marriage ended in divorce.
Yeah.
As a result of that.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's.
I would be devastated
Yeah.
if you and I were in public at a store and you were like, I can't believe it took you like 3 tries to parallel park.
Yeah, that would be that would be a lot.
Yeah. That would hurt.
Yeah.
That would hurt. I just want to put it on the record.
Yeah.
It doesn't take me 3 tries to parallel park.
No, it's the first. Like honestly, I'm very impressed by your skills.
Mm.
Right, like as somebody who actively and purposely does not drive.
Yeah.
I'm always very impressed, but it's like that, right? So this marriage did end in divorce. So going back to the original question of will the partner notice if you're pretending? In this case, she didn't notice. Somehow he was able to cover it up. But in the overwhelming majority of cases, the person knows. If you're settling for someone and you somehow value them less and believe that, you know what, I could have really done better, but he or she is good enough for now, and that's how your marriage started, he or she probably knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's subconsciously you're going to be letting them know all the time and constantly that you don't value them as much as you should.
Like every time you look at them, you just cringe a little, like you wince.
Oh God. I mean, if you're that bad an actor.
Hi, honey, how you doing? Sorry, I can't stare too long.
What's that look on your face? Every time.
I'm really trying to fight for us.
The whole time. I mean, we laugh about it, but it really do be like that.
It's
right?
like every day is a struggle.
That's a difficult situation, but your partner will know.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know that I was in that situation for the last marriage where the other person did not want to be in the marriage.
Yeah.
And I knew that from the very beginning. And that rejection, that constant rejection, it takes a real toll on your self-esteem and on your ego.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So that's why for those 2 reasons, right? Number 1, it's not going to be able to protect you. It's not going to be able to help you lower your gaze, right? And your marriage will probably not be successful. Like, so you're starting off on the wrong foot. Don't do it. And number 2, you might be hurting this person, and there's no reason to cause more pain than there already is in the world. So just don't do it. If you're not really attracted to your spouse, or at least have a baseline level of attraction that gap can be closed, don't do it. Have you ever seen somebody who was married to someone that they were not attracted to? Have you ever met that person?
Personally, no, I haven't.
I see it a lot. It's like a very common trope on reality shows.
Oh, what kind of reality?
Yeah, like there's quite a few of them. There is one called Married at First Sight.
There's one called Survivor.
Okay. AKA Married at First Sight. But that shows exactly what it sounds like. It's 2 people who have been arranged by experts, and then they meet at the altar.
Venue?
Yeah, they meet at the altar, and then most people just go through with the marriage,
Of course.
even though they're not attracted to them. And then they try to push through, and honestly, I can't remember. I haven't seen too many seasons, but I can't remember any of the situations working out where somebody wasn't attracted. It happens all the time on Love is Blind. You remember that show?
Yeah.
It's a really terrible show on Netflix. I don't recommend you watch it at all.
Hmm.
But because of what I do and coaching, I find it interesting, this concept where they put people in different rooms. They put all the men in one section and the women in one section,
Hmm.
and they go on one-on-one dates in such a way that they can't see each other at all.
Hmm.
So what they're going off of is their voices and what they're saying, and they're saying. So the idea is, can you form a connection, that where you can propose to someone and marry, in without ever seeing them? Like, is love blind?
It is weird that they make a reality TV show about getting married to someone that you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, the majority of the Western world is Christian,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's a part of their religion that if they do ever get divorced, they can't ever get married again.
Oh wow, is that a part of that religion?
Yeah,
Is that
that's what I hear.
Is it Catholicism?
No, I think it's just all of Christianity. I think it's when you get married, you just can't get divorced again. So that usually people, they don't get divorced. It's like they get separated. But then I think it was like King Henry VIII or something.
Okay, well,
He's the one that changed things about divorce so that he can marry a different woman, and he kept killing his wives, from what I hear. But apparently it used to be just part of the religion where if you get divorced, that's it. You can't ever get married again.
yeah.
So now, all of a sudden, we're in a game show territory. They make marriage a game show.
Yeah,
It's weird.
It's the pendulum swung all the way, right?
Yeah.
But on the show with Love Is Blind, you have these people who form this connection. This is why it's different from Married at First Sight, because they didn't meet at all. But in this show, they form this connection, they form this bond, and then they see each other. And because of what I do, I can always recognize who is being sincere when they say, "Oh, you're beautiful, I'm really attracted to them," and who's not.
Mhm.
And the ones who are not, I have not seen a single one of them work out.
Yeah.
Like, even on the current season, again, please don't watch the show, it's pretty terrible. But in the current season of Love Is Blind UK, there is a couple on there, Ollie, and I don't remember the name of the other woman. And she's
We're
very
going to call her Morgana.
I think I'm blanking on her name, but I think she's a very beautiful young woman, but he's just not attracted to her. And you can see it from the get-go,
Yeah.
right? And the way that you can see it is from that he seems to be, it could be that the producers are prompting him, but he's overcompensating in terms of saying she is so beautiful, so
Not
beautiful,
only that,
so
but
beautiful.
like
yeah.
every time they meet, he just punches her in the face.
Each time, I mean, that's a hint.
It's just like defensive at that point, you know? Survival instinct kicks in. He thinks he's being attacked.
Just her face, the person's face is
I
attacking
mean,
him.
in his eyes, I guess he is being assaulted.
Oh, goodness. All right. But that's the idea. And that it will very rarely work out. And then you might be hurting the other person. So just don't do it. All right. So it's important that in addition to all the other factors that we talk about, finding some partner when you are looking for a partner, things like compatibility, capacity, character, connection. A big part of compatibility is the attraction.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate it. Don't overestimate your ability to overlook it, and don't overestimate don't underestimate what kind of damage it can do to your partner. So just don't do it. So that's the advice for the people who are single and their question about that.
I think I heard, I saw some memes about the Love Is Blind thing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
There's this one dude who was very excited because he was like a fan of Megan Fox or something.
Oh yeah.
And the girl that he was meant to meet, she kept saying, "Oh, my friends say I look like Megan Fox."
Yeah.
And I think when he met her, you just can see the disappointment in his eyes or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a problem. And that's again why I don't recommend. It was a good lesson. When you're meeting somebody online, usually through the dating apps or even in some format where you're not meeting them face to face in the beginning, don't make that mistake of comparing yourself to somebody, because it's you never know.
All my friends say, like, I'm a rabid animal, like a bear, like I will attack you on first sight. Do not bring a shotgun. Our first date, we're gonna go hiking in the mountains.
Yeah. Yeah. All of that sounds reassuring
Mm.
and very
Do you mind
safe.
if I bring my shovel with me?
Okay. You would be surprised. I remember back when, like, during the time when I was on these matrimonial apps
Mm.
and I was meeting someone and I was meeting people. When I say meeting, I mean, um, online, right? There's
Yeah.
only two people that I ever met through the matrimonial apps, and you were the second one.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who I was meeting online, I remember there was one individual, I don't remember if I told you, who kept trying to say, we should go to the woods, right? We should meet in the woods. And I'm like, I don't meet people by myself. That's not something I do. He's like, no, it's gonna be fine. It's very safe. He's like, you know what? There were a couple of people who were harmed the other day in this particular set of woods, but we're not gonna worry about them. And that wasn't me. He really said that out loud.
And that wasn't me.
That wasn't me. I said, okay, what about a compromise, right? Like, I can bring somebody to a mall near us. This is back when I was just going bearing right through all of the red flags. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not important. And I said, I can bring somebody to a mall in a public place, and then we can all meet there. And he said, no, that's too public. I remember he said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I saved his name
Yeah.
into my phone as if anything happens to me, this guy did it. That was his name. I was genuinely concerned for my safety.
That's too public.
Yeah,
I heard there was this similar story of a guy
yeah.
who he was like very active in gym going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Athletic. And every time he would try to invite his first date on a hike through the woods,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd always say no.
Mm-hmm.
He'd sometimes get some people that say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And his friend asked him, he's like, why do you always do this? Why do you always invite them to a hike in the woods? And he said, it's a good way to weed out the non-athletic ones.
Oh.
And he had to explain to his friend that vibe that he was giving off was like serial killer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There are quite a few people who would say right in the beginning, I promise I'm not a serial killer. And that immediately makes you suspicious. Yeah,
I would agree with them though. Like if they say, I promise you I'm not a serial killer, believe them.
Well, you should just believe them.
Just believe them.
Yeah.
Like what serial killer would say, I promise you I'm not a serial killer?
I mean, they would never think to say that.
They would not try to say that because then all of a sudden you now think of them as a potential serial killer, and that's bad for business.
Yeah, business. Okay, this is, I feel like we're getting way off topic. Or very, way off.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So if we get back to, so that's advice for people who are single, right? The second category of questions is they ask about, well, how does attraction proceed in marriage, right? So after you do get married to somebody, what does like, what does that dynamic look like? How does it increase? Does it decrease? What are some factors that are involved? Like, what does attraction look like after you're married?
Passion turns to compassion.
That's a very beautiful summary. I like that. Right. It's actually, I think that's the ayah.
That's it. Topic's over. Let's move on.
Okay.
Hey, I did it.
It's the ayah of the Quran where it says mawadda and mawadda wa rahma, right? Mawadda is love or passionate love. And then rahma is mercy. So that the longer that you're married, one evolves into the other. But that doesn't mean that the first one is gone. Yeah. Like how your attraction to your spouse develops will depend a lot on whether or not you are in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So if we're assuming you have a healthy relationship and you've established a platform or a space where the two of you can discuss issues as they come up, those good conflict resolution routines that we talk a lot about, and you have this support routines where you reconnect daily. You have little rituals that allow you to reconnect daily, that fill up your love tanks on the daily. You have that kind of a healthy relationship. Then what it does is that when attraction inevitably goes up and down, because that's just human nature, those support routines and conflict resolution routines are protective.
Yeah.
Right? It's protective so that it doesn't go way down too much.
Yeah.
And if it does go down, then it kicks in that whoever it's gone down for, one or both of you will say, "Oh, we need to have a discussion."
Yeah.
And then you go and you have the discussion and you work on solutions around the problem.
Yeah.
So that those routines are very important to have because it will protect against the natural ups and downs.
Of
And
course.
if you were to graph, like if you were to put on to a graph how attraction proceeds in marriage,
The
right?
way I would do it is quadratic.
Quadratic for equation.
Yeah.
Honestly, is it those are parabolas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the way attraction is
Mm-hmm.
in marriage is there's a lot of passion at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, attraction, like, that's a linear upward slope.
Yeah.
It's constantly going up,
Mm-hmm.
right? The more you're married, the more attraction you should be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Passion is the quadratic where it starts very high
Mm-hmm.
and then it dips. And then when you get into your old age, it goes right back up to very high.
Okay, so where are we on that equation? Are we where are we waiting for our old age?
We've only been married 2.5 years,
Yeah.
right? So we're still on that up. We're going to try to dip down soon.
Yes, it's
We're going to have to we have to get to otherwise we're going to burn out.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, it's interesting to know where you're at.
We're going to have to start being less passionate. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so if we are what I think of it as, like if you have the X, Y, and X,
Mhm.
where on the X-axis you have time and Y-axis you have attraction, right? I think that it is, like you said, linear. So it does go up, if like the overall slope of it, the overall, it will be trending upwards.
The median.
Yes, but I don't think it's a flat line,
Mm.
right? I think it's a little squiggly line, a
Yeah.
wave, right? And that wave has little ups and downs, but the wave overall, like that wavy line,
You're talking about the sine wave or something?
yes, it's sinusoidal, right? That little sine wave is trending upwards,
Yeah.
right?
Like inflation.
Yes, absolutely. So if we are looking at what are the ups and downs, it can be a whole number of factors.
Mm-hmm.
It could be how emotionally connected that you're feeling to your spouse that day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the two of you had a fight,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody annoyed you. It could be due to a hormonal imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
It could be due to outside stressors at work, or outside family, or finances, or some other stressor.
Yeah.
It could be due to a whole number of factors.
It could be if there was like a mosquito or a fly that landed on her face.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to get rid of the fly, but you ended up slapping her, and you didn't even get the fly. Like the fly didn't die, so all of a sudden there's no evidence,
Yeah.
right? And she just thinks that you slapped her for no reason. Like
Is that what happened? That was what happened?
Hold on, don't take your joke too far. I never actually slapped you.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. Well, now you
Yeah,
have
but
an
no,
alibi.
the fly got away. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
It's not. I didn't intend to slap you full force.
Okay.
Multiple times.
With a closed fist. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. But if we go back onto the graph, yeah, so it will go up and down. But in a healthy relationship, the important thing to remember is that even though it dips down, it does dip back up. Sometimes something will happen that will overwhelm the systems that you have in place, right? And we'll have a couple who comes in, they've been married for a decent amount of time, and overall it's a healthy relationship. And for example, she'll come in and she'll say, I don't know what happened. Over the last 6 months or so, it feels like he's been really pulling away, right? And I don't know if he's as attracted to me as he used to be. Or she'll be the one when she'll be like, I don't know what happened. Over the last 6 months, I'm not as attracted to him as I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is. I feel really bad about it and I don't know how to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
When somebody comes in with like that, first, what would you advise them?
Typically, the first time there's a loss of attraction, like I'm talking about like from the lady's POV,
Okay.
right? Typically, when she first starts to lose attraction for her husband, it's when she walks in to the washroom and he's there brushing his teeth, right? And he just has his mouth open, all stupid looking.
Oh.
And like the toothpaste is just layering the sink and the countertop. And you're like, bro, you fix yourself, you know?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty triggered right now.
Yeah, it gives people the ick.
Yeah,
See?
because I just cleaned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's a whole problem. And why are you standing like that, dude? Just stand up.
oh, goodness.
There's no need to have your butt sticking out like that, man. Calm down.
All right. Well, none of that happened. If we talk for that situation, right, when a person comes in or a couple comes in, with a otherwise healthy relationship, but suddenly over 6 months, a year, whatever it is, the attraction started to shift. The first piece of advice is go see your doctor, because there are quite a few number of medical conditions. One of the symptoms can be a reduction in libido, or overall just feeling less attracted to your wife, right? Or being less interested in that aspect of your marriage. Less attracted to your husband or your wife. It could be due to hormonal imbalances. So the doctor will typically do things like ask questions about your overall health, make sure nothing else is going on. They'll do some blood work to check for things like anemia, inflammation. They will check for thyroid imbalances, shifts in testosterone. Sometimes, especially men, as they get older, the testosterone level will naturally trend downward. This happens, it's very common, right?
Yeah.
So, or sometimes it could be due to it could be pathological due to a condition. Either way, it's something that needs to be documented. So there are a number of physical conditions that a symptom can be low libido or lack of interest, right? So go to your doctor is the first piece of advice.
It might not apply to Americans.
Why? They're not people? They don't have
no free
hormones?
healthcare.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's true. But you still have to schedule a physical. It's worth your time. If it's something that's affecting your marriage, right? It's absolutely worth your time.
Yeah.
The second category of things that can affect your attraction to your spouse are mental health conditions, right? So for depression is a big one, is a very common one. So again, this is something that your doctor can screen for, and they typically will screen for.
Yeah.
Along one of the symptoms of depression is a lower libido, loss of interest, and lower attraction to your spouse.
To be honest, though, I think that if we take a dark turn here, I think that in some cases, attraction could decrease due to mental health concerns, wherein we take the inverse, where the person is now more mentally healthy.
So they feel better about themselves. So they're like, you know what, I could do better.
Yeah.
Okay. That technically that is possible.
Yeah.
But I don't know how common it is.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be very common at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But so mental health issues. The third thing, which goes back to a lot of what we discussed already, is just emotional connection, right? Emotionally, how have you been feeling in your marriage, right? Maybe there is, again, some kind of external stressor. Maybe your spouse is really stressed about their job, or you're stressed about about your job, and that's now affecting your ability to connect with them.
Yeah.
So when it comes to counselors and coaches, this is the area where we are able to help with, right? Where we take a brief history and see what the dynamics are of the relationship, where have been those shifts, and see how we can try to bridge that gap between the two of them. But even with if you go see a counselor or therapist, their first advice is go to your doctor.
Yeah.
and screen for physical issues and mental health issues. Yeah.
I think that from Everybody Hates Chris,
Oh yeah.
she was pretty happy Anytime there was a stress factor involved, she had the freedom to quit
Yeah, absolutely.
because her man had two jobs.
Okay. It seems super relevant, my dear.
Yeah.
But that's how that went, right? Um Now another cause for loss of attraction. So if we've controlled for all those things, um another variation of that is we were very happy. I was initially attracted to my spouse, but now they have changed physically, right?
Mhm.
Typically, it'll be he or she has gained a lot of weight,
Yeah.
and I am no longer as attracted to them.
Hmm.
How do I do that? How do I handle this? How do you? So we'll say the more common scenario is it's a man.
Hmm.
His wife, after pregnancy and childbirth, her body has changed, and he is now less attracted to her because she's gained weight as a result.
Hmm.
How would you advise this man?
We have technology for that.
What's the technology?
It's a chair. Put it in the corner, sit down, and shut up.
All right, that is one way to approach it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I applaud that, but it's also important to remember not to invalidate the other person's feelings, right?
Hmm.
Because who you're attracted to some degree, you are in control, but a much larger degree, in a much larger sense, it's outside of your control.
Yeah.
It's
I think pregnancy is a bad idea. It's a like if a person gained weight without pregnancy being a factor,
yeah.
I think that would be more relevant, right?
Okay, so let's
There would be more of an opportunity for discussion there. But pregnancy is a 50-50. It takes effort on both parts.
okay, so let's say okay, so let's remove pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that he met. We're not. I don't mean it like that.
We're not going to make that joke.
I'm not gonna. We're not. We're just gonna let that go. Let's have a different scenario. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Okay. We're never gonna be monetized. Okay. Okay. So let's have a different scenario where you have a gentleman. He met a woman, and the woman for whatever reason has gained weight.
Hmm.
Right? Maybe whether it's due to a physical condition, mental health condition,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, she has now gained weight,
Hmm.
and he's losing attraction to her.
Yeah.
How do you advise him? Like, how does he approach this situation?
Honestly, he needs to stop feeding her cake. Like, I know he has aspirations of becoming a baker, an artisanal chef,
Yes.
but he can't use her as a test subject every time and then get shocked if she starts to gain weight.
All right. So this is very interesting because you like baking.
Yeah.
You bake a lot of things.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna remember that for the future.
Yeah.
But I would say, yes, if that's a factor, remove that factor.
Hmm.
But this is gonna be a discussion, right?
Yeah.
This is gonna be a discussion because what we always say is any issue that can result in resentment.
Yeah.
Because if he has an option of not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
He has an option of just continue on with life and just trying to deal with it on his end.
Hmm.
And some people do try to take that route, but the problem is this is an easy way for resentment to start creeping in.
Absolutely.
And anything that can result in resentment, you should try to have a conversation. That you need to sit down and have a conversation with your spouse
100%.
because resentment is rust
Yeah.
in a marriage. So this is going to need to be a sit down conversation, and the question is, how do you have this conversation and how do you approach it? You have the conversation the same way you have every conversation in your safe space, using the 5 steps that we've discussed, right? Where the first step is talking about empathizing with the other person, your spouse, and speaking about their experience, right? So in this case, if I were him, I would say, okay, I understand that you've been, and I would try to guess. You give your best guess of what their experience is,
Mhm.
right? So you just say, I understand that things have been really difficult lately. You had that huge project at work, and that you haven't really had a chance to eat the way that we normally eat,
Mhm.
right? That makes a lot of sense to me, right? And things have been much more stressful. I get it. And then the second step is you talk about your experience.
Yeah.
So you say, but on my end, what I've been feeling like is I th- I love you very much,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as I'm concerned, you're the most beautiful woman in the world. But during this time, I'm concerned that because we're not eating the way that we normally do, and we don't have as much time for exercise that we normally do,
Mm-hmm.
that it's starting to affect our health.
Yeah.
So you approach it from a position. I know it's a little bit disingenuous,
Mm-hmm.
but you approach it from the position of I'm worried about your health,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that, especially for a woman, it's an easier way to have this conversation,
Yeah.
right? Because the way that we look to our spouse is so intricately tied to our self-worth
Mm-hmm.
that if at all there is no way to phrase that I'm less attracted to you.
Yeah.
There is no way to phrase that it's going to sound doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to lead to an implosion
Mm-hmm.
and spiraling. I know definitely it would be for me,
No, for sure.
and it would for a lot of women. So approach it from the position of health,
Yeah.
and then you continue on through the other steps.
I
Right?
think one wonderful example could be
Mhm.
like if the wife approaches the husband as the husband's the one that's gaining weight
Okay.
rapidly, by the way.
Okay.
He's gaining weight so fast, it's almost as if he's taking in thousands of calories more than he should be.
Okay.
And she's like, listen, I understand we're out of season,
Mhm.
right? The rap battle contests are no longer
Which one?
the rap battles.
Oh,
They're
okay.
no longer like we're not doing them anymore. I know, I understand we have to wait like a couple weeks
Mhm.
for the next contest session to the next tournament.
Mhm.
But please, you have to stop drinking the gasoline. It does not help you spit hot fire.
Okay. All
It
right.
just doesn't.
Okay.
It's as a rapper, you should know this. It's just words. It's a metaphor.
Yeah. There's so many puns going through my head.
Michael, I want a divorce.
Oh goodness. I would not recommend not having that conversation now in any way. But that's how you would have the conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, and take a lot of great care to be as kind to your spouse and empathetic to your spouse, whether you're the man or the woman in this position, because it can really affect. It can really affect. Like how would you, like if you were in that position, right? If you were in that position, and somebody was coming to you and saying, "Listen, I've noticed that this is happening. I'm losing." How would you want them to have that conversation with you?
Be honest about it, because whether you tell me or not, the reality is that you'd be losing attraction to me, and I want to be able to fix that issue before it's too far gone, right? Like if immediately you tell me, that's an issue that I can fix sooner and easier, right? But if somehow I end up going way too far gone, and you don't say anything for like 3 or 4 or 5 years, I might take damage that I'm not able to repair.
Oh, I see what you're. That makes a lot of sense. But the thing is, you're a lot more secure than I am. So like, for you, you would be able to see the utility of that advice
Yeah.
and put it into action.
Mhm.
For me, like it would be too much of a hit on my ego that, to protect myself, I would just blame you. I'd be like, "This is, you know what? I am who I am. You're supposed to love me, even though I'm a worm. You're gonna have to figure out how to deal with this." Right? So
It's the Lizzo approach.
yeah. Okay, all right. But so that's how you try to approach that conversation. And inshallah, that's at least a starting point. So those are the general variations of the questions that are around attraction.
I think I think that I've just come up with a game plan. Fellas, for those of y'all still listening to us, I want you to start trash talking your wife
Why?
more. You just every day you just put down hints of you're a bit ugly today, aren't you?
Oh my God.
Right? Or like, you should have stayed in the makeup room just a little longer. And like small little jabs, little tiny jabs, right?
Yeah.
Because you're building up a resistance for her, right? You adding a little bit of a toxicity to the relationship over time. Eventually, she's going to be able to withstand that punch. You're like, listen, baby, I'm not attracted to you anymore. You got to get in shape. And she's like, you know what? I get it. I get it. It's sort of like a poison in immunity, you know?
I'm just okay.
I think it's a good idea. How many men agree with me?
I would absolutely not recommend
We're
that.
all going to be sleeping on the couch.
If in the house.
No, it's an awful idea.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's an awful
Please
idea.
don't do that, yeah. But yeah. And just as a general in when it comes to perspective, it's important that you leave space. Like definitely there is not too much that we can control about attraction. It's something that is most often beyond our control.
Yeah.
But try to leave space for your spouse to be human.
Of course.
Within that, right?
course.
So whether or not they had a baby, maybe they are going through depression, right? And maybe they're on medications where what side effect could be weight gain.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be such a long list of factors, some of which are beyond their control. So you just try to give them grace in the way that you would want to have grace.
Yeah.
And be very gentle with them during this time.
Yeah.
Because most often when most people go through a period of weight gain, I know I did for a long time, it's not because things are going well in their life.
Of course not.
Yeah. So
you you want to give them the
Yeah.
space to like make that choice for themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
And in addition to all of this, because a lot of it is beyond our control, but there is a small part that is within our own control, right? Where because this is a Muslim marriage podcast for people who are Muslims, we have an understanding that if you lower your gaze, right, or you try hard not to look at things that are haram or forbidden for you, then
your wife or your partner is beautiful.
Yes, it'll be then you will your heart will be more pleased with what is halal for you, right? And vice versa. If you are spending more time looking at what's haram, then you're going to have this aversion to what's halal.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is because of the way society is and the accessibility to haram images, a lot of people are consuming a lot of haram images.
Yeah.
What that does, in addition to harming your soul in the way that we talked about, is it can distort your view of what it is that you find attractive.
Yeah, of course.
Right? It can really start to shift what you find attractive. And there is nothing more painful to a partner who it might not even be about weight.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it could just be about skin tone. It could be about just a number of different factors.
Yeah.
That is beyond their control, and you're not finding that as attractive because you've been looking at images that don't represent what your spouse looks like.
To put this into perspective,
Yeah.
when we were younger, we used to watch TV, and it was only a couple of channels, and we were very happy with those few channels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now that we're older and we have all these different video, Amazon, whatever, Netflix, whatever, right? We're not happy. We're always like, there's never anything to watch.
Yeah.
What happened to the good old days when we were younger? We just like stare at one channel, like, channel 25, for example,
Yeah.
YTV. We would just stare at it for like hours on end, and we'd always be happy with whatever they pushed, right? All the TV shows.
Yeah.
Now we're just paralyzed by too many options. So I feel like if you go online and you look at haram content, or you're outside and you're looking around, you sort of just paralyze yourself from the beauty within.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's protective, so that at least this is a factor that is within your control. So that this is one of the reasons why we are advised in our religion to avoid looking at things that are not for us, that are things that are haram, and to lower your gaze as much as you can, because it's protective. So that is one small area where you have some control.
Oh, I also figured out another way you can gently tell your husband or your wife about their health problems.
Oh.
Suppose in this relationship, I'm the man, and my wife walks up to me and she takes a mirror, full length mirror, and she just puts it in front of me. And I just look at it and I said, upon further reflection, I should lose weight.
Upon further reflection?
I should lose weight.
When you've reflected upon this.
Yes.
I get it. I like it. It's a good pun. Very
upon
solid.
further reflection, I should lose weight.
Okay, for anyone who hasn't logged off, we have, we're just going to go through this question very quickly because it's a good summary of what we've been talking about, right?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay, so it's a young woman, and she says, so I got married. She's been married for about 1 year, and she asks, this is from Muslim Marriage Reddit. She says, so I got married to the guy I wasn't attracted to. If you read my previous posts, you'll know everything that went on. There was no way to cancel the walima, as the guy himself said he wanted to give it a try. So I thought I'd have a positive mind and do the same. So she did the thing where she married that person she wasn't attracted to.
That's weird how she said there was no way to cancel it.
There's probably a long backstory, right? And then she said it's been about a month now, and I'd say I even went on holiday with him, but I still feel nothing towards him. Everyone says to give it time, but how much more time do I give?
How many people is she talking to?
So she's probably talking about the people who have advised her.
From the prior post.
Yeah, probably. She says I have been communicating my feelings to him as well, so he's not left in the dark. But anytime I say something, he ends up being silent and feeling sorry for himself. I know the situation is hard on him too, so I feel bad. But he doesn't even communicate properly with me, so I don't know how we're going to come to a solution about this. And every time I talk to him about my issues, he just goes on about his day like normal and doesn't do anything to help or support me. And I don't know what to do anymore. Even when I ask him if he wants to live like this the rest of his life, he doesn't say no. I truly think he doesn't care or something is definitely wrong, but only Allah knows. I would be grateful for any advice.
It depends. Like for me, I need context on like what is the problem she has with him.
She's not attracted to him.
Yeah, but is it something that's like a permanent feature, or is it something that's malleable?
I think that it's just physically. You know how sometimes you meet someone, and you're not attracted to them. You're just physically, they're not your type, and that's fine, right? Not everybody's for everybody, but everybody's for somebody.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who are just not going to find me attractive, and I'm okay with that. But she married that person.
Which is weird because she said I had no choice in the matter. And then she's like, I had no choice in the matter because he really wanted to get married. But it's like...
No, but I'm thinking that it was like if we go through her history, because nobody would do this unless they had something, they had a real reason, right? So assuming that she had a legitimate reason that was involving her family, most likely.
Societal pressures.
Yes, and now she's here and now she's married to somebody that she's definitely not physically attracted to.
Like, I mean, if you just apply her excuse for it, so many people would be getting married. Like, you know, I really didn't want to marry this guy, but he really wanted to marry me. I felt like I had no choice.
Yeah, it happens, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why I wanted to point this question out is that we can now answer it based on everything that we talked about. So she did try to have that conversation with him. She says, I tried to talk to him many times, but he's not hearing her. Right?
I feel like that's nuanced though, because it depends on how she's talking to him, right?
I don't think that it's something like I'm not even sure what she would ask him to do. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. It's like it really depends on the context of how she finds him not attractive. Is it like, hey, you're horribly disfigured and we should talk about that, or like, hey, you got to lose some weight?
It's just, you know how there are just human beings. That are not your type. And so I don't know if it's an issue about weight. Let's assume it's not something that he can change. And let's assume it's not disfigurement. It's just a normal human being. He's
conventionally attractive to other people. She just doesn't, it's not her type.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Right? So if she's in a situation where she's married to the person who's not her type, she's not attracted to. But so there's several ways that this can be approached. She's only been married a month.
Yeah.
Again, when you're married, it's different from when you're dating because you now have commitment. So the first thing that I would recommend is make sure, do what she can, that they don't have children, right? Because you don't want to complicate the situation any further than it is. Secondly, I would recommend, if it's possible, to have counseling or therapy, or even coaching, to find a professional that will give you the resources that you need to at least try to close the gap a little bit. It's like what we said before. When it comes to attraction, it's not one spot. It's not one number.
Yeah.
It's more of a little bit of a range that has some room for movement, plus or minus emotional connection.
Yeah.
So she's not attracted to him at all, but they haven't really tried the emotional connection aspect of it yet, based on what she said in this question. And the way that you start to build that emotional connection is by developing that conflict resolution routine and by developing those support routines with the daily rituals, and to start having those conversations that are with a little bit of vulnerability that will foster a little bit more of emotional intimacy, and see how much of a gap that closes, right? Because they're married. You got to try what you can before you walk away.
Yeah, I don't think he has anything to answer for.
No, he doesn't.
I don't think it's up to him to try to close the gap, to be honest. Like, I think for her, this is something she should have brought to him before they got married.
I think whenever I have clients, right? Yeah. Many times I have clients who come to me and it's very obvious that you shouldn't be married, right? Like, if you had come to me before, I would have helped you to not make the situation happen. But they're here now, right?
They're here now.
They're here now. So when two people are here and they're married, even if they don't have children, there's a level. Marriage is a heavy thing. Yeah. You have to try what you can within your power before you decide that this is no longer fixable. Yeah. So that on Yom Al-Qiyamah, when you're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will have something to say for yourself. Right? Because don't forget, divorce is not haram. Yeah. It's something that is halal. It's the most hated thing that's halal. But it is halal, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it easy for us, right? You don't need the 1 or 2 years that's here in some Western countries. And the lawyers and all the things that come with that and all the paperwork. It's just words. And you're now divorced. But it is still a heavy, heavy thing that we have to take seriously, because the only reason that this human being is halal for you is because of the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. Right, because of that contract. So 1-2 clients are come in front of me, clearly they should never have been married in the first place. But because they're married, we're going to try what we can. You got to do what you can. You got to do everything you can. Exactly. So that's why in this case, do what you can is going to be fostering emotional intimacy and emotional connection to see how much of that gap closes. Yeah. And the emotional intimacy and emotional connection is going to take effort on both of their parts. And it's going to, the faster way to get there, they can do trial and error, but the faster way to get there is with professional help to show them techniques and strategies of how to try to foster that emotional connection faster. Okay, I just figured it out. The cheat code. Oh. Okay, so the guy gets married to a second woman. Oh, no. Right? Okay. Follow me here. There's a plan to this. All right. He gets married to the second woman, and all of a sudden the first woman gets competitive. It's a subhanallah. And now, because there's another woman, she's competitive, she's going to be like, oh, you're so handsome. Yeah. You're so wonderful. Come over to the house tonight. Don't go to that house. Isn't that right? Yeah. There are people who are going to take your advice. That's what I'm worried about. There are people who are going to take you seriously. Definitely, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing haram about polygamy. The problem is that she wronged herself by marrying someone she's not attracted to. A big part of coaching is getting past what it is, though. Getting past the past? Yeah, getting past the past. Yeah. Because the difference between counseling and coaching is that in coaching, we focus on the present and accomplishing goals in the future. That's it. That's it. What happened happened.
Yeah.
But the only reason I wouldn't recommend your suggestion is because it's highly manipulative, and anything it's extremely manipulative.
Apparently,
Yeah.
he got married based off manipulation tactics from the sounds of it. She got either manipulated by him or societal pressure or her parents.
Mhm.
The marriage started out manipulative.
Yeah, it did. There, you would be surprised. Quite a few times, I have clients that shouldn't be married,
Yeah.
but depending on the issues, some issues are solvable,
Yeah.
or at least solvable to an extent that they can live in a way that's peaceful, right?
My
So-
suggestion's not serious, by the way. For
Okay.
those of y'all listening,
Oh, inshallah.
just in case you're worried, like this is not an actual viable strategy.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. We should make that more clear more often.
Oh,
We should just have a list of disclaimers in the beginning.
okay.
Yeah.
I know. I figured it out. Okay. Every time I'm about to tell a joke, I'm gonna say, "There's a punchline to the end of this, guys."
Okay. That would probably be helpful.
Mm.
But yeah, just it's a matter of closing that gap,
Mhm.
inshallah. That would be the advice, and seeing what can be done.
Yeah.
What can be done. And 1 month is not long enough to see all that.
Mhm.
I would give it maybe 6 months
Mhm.
and see what happens as a result of that.
Yeah.
But again, do what you can to not have children during
Yeah.
that time. When if you are ever in a situation where you are now married to somebody and you're having serious doubts about whether or not this can be a healthy relationship, if you're in a position where you're like, you know what, I might have made a mistake, it
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
Right? It happens. You find something out about them. Do what you can to fix the marriage.
Mhm.
And of course, this is barring any abuse. If it's
Yeah.
abusive, then you go to find your family, find some place that's
Get out.
protective. Yeah. But if it's not abusive and it's an issue of incompatibility, something that you didn't see it,
Mhm.
do what you can to try to fix and try to close that gap.
Mhm.
But while you're doing that, try not to have any children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a punchline to the end of this.
Oh,
I totally agree with you.
okay. Go for it. That's the joke. The joke is that you agree with me. Okay, subhanallah. that was a hit. That was a
It
hit
was
on me.
subversive, wasn't it? You weren't expecting that.
I should have been. That was on me. I should have expected it. Okay, so that is the topic of attraction.
Mm.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would want to add to it? Or?
No, it's wonderfully surmised.
Oh, jazakallah khair. I appreciate that. Is that another punchline?
No.
Okay.
I told you I would warn you if there was.
It's gonna okay. So we want to say jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, we're starting to get questions in through our email. And we'll start addressing those next week, inshallah. But if you have any questions about your situation, whether you're single, whether you're married, something of advice, please feel free to reach out. If you want to stay anonymous, make sure you let us know that in the email.
Mhm.
And you can always find me on Instagram at Zahra Hassan Coaching. And if you're a woman, you can always, we also have a Discord. Supportive community for Muslim women where we continue the conversation about healthy relationships. The link for the Discord is down in the description. Or if you're somebody who is looking for help with their relationship in general, or just has questions or something that they would like to be addressed and want to explore what it's like to be coached by me, you can also find links where you can book an appointment or free consultation in our description below.
Mhm.
I think that's everything.
There is a punchline to the end of this.
Okay, go for it.
Our goal in the short term is addressing your questions, and our goal in the long term is addressing allegations.
Oh,
So
God.
let's get there, everyone.
Allegedly. Okay. Yeah, and if you haven't already, we appreciate your time here with us. If you found the information to be useful, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us with the algorithm. That should be everything.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, question for you guys is: do you think attraction is important? Let us know in the comments below. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next time, and assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.